Well, hello everyone. Episode 26 of the Zwift Power Up Cycling Podcast. Me and Kev today. What's going on, Kev? Where are you?
I'm in Switzerland at the moment, conducting a bit of a training camp here just for the week, and weather's been fantastic and the roads are great as well.
Good man. It's not a traditional location for a training camp, Switzerland.
Nah, this is a special one-off one, this one, so it's got some good goals to achieve, but this is a unique one.
Cool, fair enough. So this podcast, Greg is going to join us later for the questions, is centered around esports and especially the KSL, so the KISS Super League. We've got Adam Zimmerman, the 2018 US National Zwift Champion. So first off, let's dive in with Adam. All right, Adam, thanks for joining us straight off of a Zwift race. You must be tired.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I'm happy to be here, first of all. Thanks for having me. And definitely right off about 5 to 10 minutes off of a race. So I will try my best not to choke on the mic for you.
Good man. So you are a member of the Zwift All Stars and you competed in the KISS Super League. First off, the All Stars, pretty cool accolade. How did all that come about?
Yeah, definitely. I was really stoked, and I'm honored to be a part of a really cool team that kind of represents the essence of the Zwift community. You know, a ways back in the winter, I would say before the new year, I was contacted by Kim Little, and he said, "Hey, we're getting this team together for this pro league. Are you interested?" And I said, "Absolutely." So that was kind of just the start of it, and then little details started coming in and about once it became public and everything like that. And I just went along for the ride.
Awesome. And did you feel much pressure from the community? Because you're representing the community, right?
I did, yeah. I felt like there was, not to beat the pros. That wasn't where the pressure came from. It was more of representing the community the best way I could. And that, to me, is really important. And I'm kind of glad that I was able to do it well. It's not all about winning. It's about how you represent yourself and how you represent the community of racers around you in the Zwift area. Yeah.
Absolutely. All right. And obviously the All-Star team is full of big hitters, well-known Zwifters. What's the team dynamic like? Because obviously you've been all pulled together from the different parts of the community. How has the dynamic improved or changed throughout the 8 weeks of KISS Super League?
I'd say it was actually great, and I've kind of known everybody on the All-Star team already from just racing against them in the community. I've met Casey Shum, I've met Kim Little, I met Lionel at CVR Vancouver in person. So I kind of knew a lot of these guys to begin with, and I met what was his name? Steve Young as well. So I met a bunch of them already. So that was kind of cool. And we were always on Discord, always communicating with each other. We had a group chat. So we kind of knew we had a plan for every single race that we were going to do against the pros.
And Discord, that's how you guys communicate during racing?
Yeah, we did. We would communicate through Discord just using the app. That was the easiest way to communicate.
Got you. And is that two-way, or have you got a DS kind of calling the shots, or is it just the riders communicating amongst themselves?
Well, I'd say Kim Little had the final say, but shout out to Casey Shum, because he's probably the best person to talk when you're riding at 180 beats per minute. It's incredible how clear he can speak when we're sitting in the group riding at 5 watts per kilo. It's unbelievable. So he was calling a lot of the shots just because he was the only one who could talk. Right. But it was more of a collective approach too. Like sometimes we'd have to flip the switch and totally change tactics halfway through a race. And everybody was just kind of waiting and agreeing to change things up as we moved.
Awesome. And what's your role in the team? I mean, you've got a mix of different strengths and weaknesses. Yeah, where do you slot into that?
Oh, I would definitely say I would consider myself an all-arounder, but definitely a sprinter for sure on Zwift. That was my specialty. If there was a flat race, I was definitely going to be there for it. I can do pretty well on the short rolling hills, something with 3 minutes or less, like Watobia forward and reverse, those kind of climbs.
Okay, and lead outs, how have you guys managed the lead outs is it a case of not following, but kind of being a bit more reactive to the Madison Genesis boys, because they've been super sharp in the sprints. What's the plan been trying to tackle those guys?
we really had to change our tactics around a lot. Not only were all the races double draft, but the watts per kilo were close to pretty much 5.0 or above averaging for every single race, right? So you're going into these sprints not fresh, at least for guys like me, who's a sprinter. I want the easiest pace possible, right, before a punchy sprint. So I actually kind of messed up my tactics a little bit. I kind of waited back and then went a little too late in a lot of my sprints. And the stronger riders like Bibby and Mould and Alex West and a few others, they were starting to ramp it up earlier. And I was coming around and there just wasn't enough time or enough pavement left to catch them. So the Pro League really taught me that I had to be more open-minded about my tactics.
Got you. And in real life, what's your racing history been to date? What have you done on the road?
Yeah, so funny enough, I consider myself a climber outside, but I guess it's totally different on Zwift. I've been racing on the road for about 10 years. Started 2007, and that went for about 10 years, and then got a little burnt out with road and wanted to switch it up and fell in love with the mountain bike. And for the last 3 years, I've been racing cross-country mountain bike, and this will be my first year actually racing at the pro level of cross-country. So really stoked about that.
So what's your next target on Zwift going to be? Obviously, the KSL has been a massive focus for so many, and even as spectators, it's been great to watch. It feels like there's a bit of a void now. I'm kind of like itching. What's the next, bit of esports that we can get our eyes on? But what's your next focus on Zwift?
Yeah, that's a great question. Well, today was also the end of the KISS Community League. Happened to take down the win today, which I'm super stoked about. Yeah.
Nice.
So that was pretty cool. It ended up in a bunch sprint, and I had really good legs at the end, came around for the win. So pretty excited about that. To be honest, unless another new series pops up, then my majority of focus now is going to be outside on cross-country mountain bike. A lot of people have asked me what I do and how I mix it up, and I consider myself a hybrid athlete. I do part cross-country mountain bike racing during the spring and the summer, and then the rest of the time I race on Zwift. So that's kind of how I manage my time.
That's like a lot of road pros. They've kind of in the off season they do the track and do the 6 days and the kind of the pro track season. Take Elia Viviani in the winter. He's often busy on the track and all that. And this is no different. Splitting the year up. You got your road season and your Zwift season. It's kind of it can be two distinct, proper chunks of racing.
Yeah, it's funny because I have 2 velodromes, both within an hour drive from my house. And I really should dust off my amazing track bike that I have sitting in my garage with really nice arrow spoke and rear disc wheel and stuff. But it's really just about time management, and I actually, today is like a whirlwind because I also found out that I'm going to be a father of a baby boy. So that was like,
wow,
a whole nother thing added on, right? So my time management is so important for me. So yeah, mountain bike cross country, I got the trails right near my house and I can train there. And then Zwift, obviously, is so easy because I raced 15, 20 minutes ago and I'm already sitting here talking to you. So
yeah, awesome. And your favorite course on Zwift or favorite route?
Ooh, all right, any New York City course. And that's hands down because I grew up in New York City, so I have a lot of nostalgic feelings about racing. My first ever bicycle race was the Central Park, which you'd consider perimeter loop on Zwift. Mm-hmm. That was my first actual bicycle race, and that's where I grew up, so I just love New York City. But I also like the courses because they're always changing. The courses are undulating, little tiny hills, punchy short hills here and there, and you really have to figure out the sprint very differently. It's not like a straight shoot like the regular Watopia loop, right? There's just little tiny hills here and there, and it turns left and right, and you really have to keep your wits about you.
Yeah, 100%. That's one thing that's become really clear through the KISS Super League is how the kind of the lesser experienced Zwifters really struggled, especially early on. I think some of them kind of caught up as they got used to Zwift. But there's a real knack to Zwifting. And how much because say a sprint, how much of a sprint do you think is physical ability versus tactical awareness, knowing the course, knowing the game, and knowing when to go?
I would have to split it about 60-40, 60 being physical. You have to be in really good shape, no matter what, for Zwift, any big time Zwift race, especially the Super League. And then there is a large, big factor about the tactics, knowing the courses, knowing your competition, knowing where to draft and then when to make your move, just like you would outside. The only difference is that you can move up and around the group a lot easier, obviously on Zwift, but there is such a tactical dynamic to it that people don't realize.
Yeah, absolutely. And tonight, the race you won, did you say that was Richmond?
No, actually, that was Watopia Figure 8, which had both so it had both the reverse KOM and then the forward KOM.
Got you. Okie doke. And just to finish off then, what would be your tip for the sprint finish on Watopia Figure 8 for our listeners?
Sit in and be patient. The first, in terms of the whole course itself, the reverse KOM is draftable right after the steep punchy climb for about 20 seconds. So sit in, conserve. You're going to have to dig deep on the forward KOM because it's all power to weight right there. If you make it over there, it's probably going to be a sprint finish. And I would just sit in, conserve. And then at about 350 meters, if it's double draft, you have to start moving up and pushing not into your full sprint, but you have to make sure your third, fourth, fifth wheel. Otherwise, you're going to get caught out and you're going to be trying to make up a ton of distance because of that double draft and the speed going into it. And then when you hit about 300 meters, it's just a light switch. You have to just go all in. Don't think about anything until you cross the finish line.
Yeah, 300 meters. Wow. So quite a long sprint. What's that going to be? 300 meters on Zwift. That's got to be a good 15, 18, 20 seconds around there.
I would say 15 to 20 seconds. Depends if you have an arrow power up. Depends how fast the group is going into it and things like that. But no matter what, you're going to be sprinting for that 15 to 20 second, 100% all out.
Yeah. Awesome. There you go. The man who knows, fresh off a win tonight. And we'll keep an eye out for you on whatever series comes up next. All right, there we go. So let's move on and talk Zwift sessions. So in the Zwift library, we've under less than an hour to burn. We've got the McCarthy Special, Kev. What's that session all about then?
Yeah, well, this is one of the more popular sessions on Zwift that people regularly use. And first of all, we should mention Mike McCarthy, fantastic athlete, former World Pursuit champion, and he's also recently won the Masters World Pursuit as well, so has still got it. And he has a special session on Zwift. And actually, being a pursuiter, this session suits that kind of characteristic. So the McCarthy Special consists of three 3-minute efforts that ramp up from zone 4, then 3 minutes at zone 5, and then 3 minutes at zone 6. So it's a 9-minute effort in total, and we do that 3 times with 9 minutes recovery. So it is basically going from hard to harder and then hardest at the end there. So it's a very challenging session, and if you can get through that one, you're doing really well.
Yeah, and good thing about that session, it's obviously really time efficient. If you look, you're doing 3 9-minute blocks, so 27 minutes of effort within an hour. So almost half the time you're spending, you're kind of on it, really making it count. So if you've got less than an hour to burn, as the kind of the category says, not a bad session to have a stab at. All right, cycling terminology, Kev. What have you got for me?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, and I've got to admit this was a new one for me. So, Matt, the one we've got for you here, if you're ready, is getting coned.
Okay, this is a Zwift-specific term, and basically, if you get coned, you're getting DQ'd from a Zwift race. So it's the cone of shame. And it's that little orange triangle with an exclamation mark that looks like a cone that appears next to your name in-game. So when you get one of those next to you, you're getting coned.
Okay, and that's 30 seconds in, Matt.
There we go. Yeah, it's definitely not a prize. It's not a good thing.
So I never realised what that orange cone was. Now I know.
Yeah.
Not that I've seen it next to my name, but yeah, I've seen it on the screen.
Because you get it when you're deemed to be riding too fast or unrealistically fast, or you're flagged by other Zwifters when you get told on, basically. And it can be for harassment or bad language, but normally it's when you've kind of you're going too fast, or what's known as you're flying, taking a flyer. And again, it's for cheaters basically, to try and catch cheaters. And just quickly, briefly, the most famous instance of the cone of shame really coming into force was in the KISS Community League race 2, I think it was, around Richmond. The whole of the front group, around 20 riders, got coned for going sub 20 minutes. So this is where Zwift kind of set a parameter to say, right, well, if you're going below 20 minutes, that's deemed too fast and kind of unrealistic. But obviously with the introduction of the Community League, riders are going super quick and breaking barriers. There was that mass coning. So the mass coning. So that's getting coned. So not a term many of us are familiar with probably, but hopefully that sheds some light on it.
That's a good one.
Yeah. So quick fire question, Kev. Undervest or no undervest on Zwift?
Undervest, for sure.
You were undervest. That's funny. I would say no undervest. And that's just, I think it's trying to trim down the amount of time it takes to get ready. I think I just go upstairs. It's one less item of clothing to get on, but I'm just bib shorts and headband, sweatband.
Yeah, but I would say, in my experience and what I've seen people using, it's just wearing an undervest and no jersey. So that's why I would say undervest. So people, actually, I would say, who really wears a jersey when training indoors? Not many, I would assume.
No, I don't wear a jersey. Again, in the comfort of your own home, it's why would you bother? Because obviously you've got a fan on to try and cool you down. So why would you bother putting a jersey on when the objective is to try and keep as cool as possible? Well, good job the avatars have jerseys on in game anyway.
Good point.
Good point. All right. Q&A section, Kev. First question. Actually, we've got first question. We're going to defer to Greg. So, Greg, I know you've got a great answer for this one. And the question reads, Matt, Greg and Kev, thanks for the insightful podcasts. I enjoy listening. I recently bought a cycling computer, and after one ride, it told me I have a threshold of 197 watts and a watts per kilo of 2.4 watts per kilo, and with a VO2 max of 41. How is it possible to get all this information from one ride, and how accurate is this data? That's a great question from Xavier Xandio. So, Greg, what do you make of that?
Okay, what a great question. And like the technology these days is really, really incredible. And you'd be quite surprised how accurate it is. First of all, a few things we need to take note here of is it can quite easily predict a threshold for you. If you've entered in things like, height, weight, sex, you will then, no problem, and you've got a power meter, then obviously, say, for an example, a Garmin will easily calculate from those numbers plus what you've ridden for 20 minutes, say in that ride that you did, it will take the average power that your average maximum power for 20 minutes, and it'll give you a very accurate description of your FTP. And then, of course, your weight. If you've added your weight in there, then that's very easy to give you a watts per kilogram. So, I mean, and this can change. This is ever evolving, because if you go out and you've got a long climb to do and you just absolutely floor it up this climb for 20 minutes, then, your FTP is going to rise. Now, the next one isn't so simple. Your VO2 max. It's a really nice idea. I've done enough VO2 max tests where, you're in a lab. I mean, this is the gold standard. You're in a lab. You're on a exercycle. Every minute you'll increase 25 watts right up until failure. And you have a gas exchange mask on. And what this does is it measures how much carbon dioxide you blow out versus how much oxygen you're sucking in. And it's called an RER ratio, respiratory exchange ratio. And when you hit 1.0, so it'll go up all the way, 0.2, 0.7, up to there you're still burning fats, 0.8, 0.9, you might be starting to move into some glycogen. At 1 when you hit 1, it's deemed your VO2 max, and you're actually starting to go anaerobic, and you'll see your two lines cross over, your carbon dioxide and your oxygen intake will just start to come close together. Your maximal test will end usually but at an RER of 1.15. Now, these are all calculations done by this amazing machine that, obviously we can't carry out training out on the road. And then the test is deemed finish when your carbon dioxide level is way higher than your oxygen level. So you're blowing out way more carbon dioxide than you are taking in oxygen, and your VO2 max numbers, then it just plateaus, and that means you've gone absolutely anaerobic, and that's basically where your VO2 max stands, and that's the gold label. That's the really only 100% accurate way of getting a VO2 max reading. However, having said that, what these Garmin's and Polars and these things, what they do is there is a way of estimating your VO2 max, because what happens is oxygen output, or VO2, is linear to heart rate. So as your heart rate increases, it increases linear to your, like at the same angle at which your oxygen output increases. So what they will have done in these computers, they'll have all these algorithms. Once you put in your age, your weight, once you put in what power that you're riding at. So say, for example, you're riding along at 300 watts or whatever the number happens to be, it'll do all these algorithms and it'll be able to predict what your VO2 max is there. It'll take your heart rate. It'll go, okay, this is what, let's say 2,000 people in a population pool. This is what their oxygen output is at this sort of wattage, and this is their age, and this is the power they're putting out, and this is their weight. So this is what we can do here. And then if you've entered in your maximum heart rate, or the Garmin has calculated your maximum heart rate because you've gone very, very hard one day and you've hit a maximum heart rate of, say, 186, so then what it can do is go, okay, if he carries on, if he's doing 150 heart rate at 300 watts, it can then, just because he knows the relationship is linear, he goes, okay, at 186 heart rate, he'll be blowing off this much oxygen, which could be 5,000 milliliters per minute. And then they convert that to make it, comparable to everybody else. They divide it by your weight. So, and then I was just looking up a few studies, and these studies actually show that the Garmin does come within 5% of a lab test. The only problem is they're 5% within a normal population, not an extreme or an elite athlete population. So when it says 56 or 60, I think is the max I've seen on a VO2 on the Garmin machine. Whereas in actual fact, a lot of elite athletes have VO2 maxes of 78 to 85 type thing. But just from those algorithms, just from doing thousands and thousands of sample tests, it is actually accurate to within about 5%. And this will increase too as you get fitter, because that's basically what it is. It's showing how fit you are, how much you can utilize oxygen before going anaerobic. So the next time you might be doing 300 watts, I'm just making this number up, it might be 250, it might be 200. But let's just say you're doing 300 watts, and then 2 weeks later you're doing 145 heart rate. Well, then instantly it knows, okay, look, here's the algorithm. The heart rate and VO2 max are linear. So now all of a sudden this VO2 has jumped up 4 or 5 points. Or you've lost some weight. There's the other way to increase your VO2 max. Is everything might stay the same, but you're 3 kilograms lighter. Well, boom, the whole equation gets divided by a smaller number, so your VO2 max increases that way. So they are very, very accurate to a certain point, to the non-elite level. Let's put it that way. When it comes to FTP, very, very accurate. It's not a problem for them to do that with weight, wattage, your best 20 minutes. They can easily predict that. And obviously, again, if you put your weight in, it can do watts per kilogram. And of course, again, like everything, if you drop some kilograms or add some kilograms, that'll change your watts per kilogram. So yeah, technology these days, it's really, really exciting. And who knows? We might not even have to ever jump back in the lab again, because I tell you, I absolutely hate those VO2 max tests. They end up, I usually end up looking at the bottom of a bucket, having a bit of a vomit after those ones. Anyway, mate, I hope that answers your question. And yeah, long story short, mate, it is pretty accurate. And the more you use it, the more often you use it, the more it gets to know you, and the more accurate the reading will become. So, yeah, mate, keep going, and yeah, right on.
Yeah, absolutely. Okie doke. Question 2, and this question is from Harley Smith, and the question reads, I'm following the Fondo plan on Zwift, and I find that I finish some sessions, most actually, not really feeling like I've had much of a workout, and then end up then doing extra post-session. Is this okay, do an extra, or am I overtraining? Now, good question. And to start off, I guess the question is, am I okay doing extra, or am I risking overtraining? Just to make sure we're talking about the same thing, there you've got overreaching and overtraining. So overreaching is more of a kind of a micro scale. We're talking, you're doing too much over a day or a couple of days. Maybe you've just gone super deep in a race and your body needs a rest. No problem. You're taking a few days and you'll bounce back. Overtraining, which is what Harley's question refers to, is more of a longer term condition. After weeks or months of training without adequate rest and poor nutrition or both, you dig yourself a big hole. You've overtrained. There's a big risk here that if you continue to overtrain, you become too fatigued, and it's more of a health issue then, and you need a real lifestyle change. So, overreaching, no problem. But overtraining is much more of an issue. So, first thought, if you're finding these sessions way too easy and you're coming off saying you're just not finding them taxing enough, is your FTP input into Zwift correctly? Because if it's obviously too low, the sessions aren't going to stress you enough. And of course, your FTP should be changing throughout the year, depending on the phase and proximity to your goals. And over time, hopefully your FTP is trending upwards as you improve. So make sure your FTP is input correctly. But another factor is how fit you are. Now, if you're super fit and you've been cycling for years, used to training really hard and long, let's take it to the extreme. Say you're a pro cyclist. If a pro cyclist was to follow one of these plans, chances are, they've got a greater capacity to train than most of us. So some extra volume around those sessions is probably not a bad idea. But generally speaking, I think most of the sessions and the Fondo plan and most sessions on Zwift have probably got enough specificity in the plans and in each session. You probably don't need to do any more specific efforts. But some more general riding, a bit more volume is not a bad idea. So as a rule of thumb, if you can do more on top, a bit more volume is fine. Maybe just knock up an extra half an hour, 45 minutes or so on tired legs. But I think if your threshold is input correctly, these sessions should be, you shouldn't be finding them easy.
Good answer.
Tricky one that, Kev, isn't it? Because the tendency is always, just to do more. But obviously these plans are written in a way to try and think about the long term. It's not just about one particular session where you want to smash yourself into the ground. It's a bigger picture and building up, sustainably.
Yeah, and I think it comes back to that point where not every session has to be high intensity and you have to feel like you've had a really hard workout. Just like when you're training outdoors regularly, you're going to have some rides that are less intense, but you still get value from it. So I think it's that mentality of when we train indoors that we think we have to have a really high intense hard session and get off really feeling it in the legs and so on, but it's not the case. When you train regularly indoors, we just need a real mix of all intensities and recovery rides and endurance as well. So the full kit really.
Okay, question 3. And this question is from Carl Clarkson. And Carl's asking, he says, I find that I feel much more comfortable riding a given power and a given cadence in the big ring versus the small ring. So big ring and bigger sprocket feels nicer than small ring and smaller sprocket. Yet it's the same gear. Is it in my head? Kev, what do you reckon, mate?
Okay, that's a pretty complex question there. I'm going to try and give a clear, concise, short answer. Now, I'm going to assume that Carl is talking about riding indoors here, but the same scenario does work in outdoor riding as well. So what we're talking about here is all about inertia of the pedal stroke. And when we're training indoors in erg mode, you can be riding the same power and the same cadence, but if you're riding a different gear on your bike, it is going to feel different. And what happens is that to produce high inertia, we ride the big ring and a small cog, and with high inertia, it's actually a little easier to reach higher power. So those threshold, VO2, anaerobic capacity type efforts in erg mode, put it into the big chain ring to make it a little bit easier. But also, if we're looking at the specific demands of the event you're training for, so if you're a climber, you actually want to have low inertia. So you would then train in erg mode in the small chain ring and a small cog as well. So low inertia replicates the demands of the climbing pedal stroke, and high inertia replicates the demands of a flat, fast time trial type pedal stroke as well. And if we're talking about out in the road here for Carl, it's the same kind of scenario in the way that the combination of the size of the front chain ring to the cog on the back, even that might be the same gear in terms of inches or centimetres, however you want to measure the gear, the way the combination of the front chain ring and the rear cog is going to provide a different amount of inertia as well. So in this scenario, it sounds like Carl is riding on a nice flat, fast road with some high power, and that's why it feels more comfortable to ride the big chain ring with higher inertia. So I hope that answers the question. It's certainly easy to go in more detail, but that's the short, concise answer for that one.
Yeah, good response there, and I can certainly relate to what Carl's saying. I mean, being a bigger rider, I feel more comfortable in the big ring, big sprocket. It just feels very different. So yeah, it's interesting, Kev. Nice one. Yeah. And going forward, guys, we've for anyone who's got any questions, or if you want to interact or take some of these questions a bit further, or if you've got any new questions on the Zwift forums, we've now got a thread for the Zwift Power Up Cycling Podcast. There's one for the Cycling Podcast and one for the Tri Podcast as well. So yeah, feel free to drop on there, share us any comments, questions, and yeah, Greg, Kev, and I will we'll be able to interact, and we can chat a little bit on the forums.
Absolutely.
Lovely. All right, guys. Well, I think that wraps up episode 26. Kev, good to chat as always, mate. And I'll see you all on the next podcast.
Great work. Thanks, Matt.